Sure.
Yeah.
Gotta get their fast shot.
Yeah.
Gotta get their fast shot.
Happy game day, Britball Nation, and welcome to some very last minute power rankings for the Uniball Premierships following week 11. Obviously some huge shake-ups across the Premierships this week following the announcement of BUCS sanctions upon the formerly rankings-topping Saints, costing the Durham team 5 of their hard-earned wins so far this season after it was determined that starting QB, Dominic Boner, was ineligible to play for the Saints following a ban for use of performance-enhancing drugs this past summer in Finland. But how will this have affected our power rankings? Before we get into that, remember that if you want to see the Britball Nation grow, you can do your bit by ensuring you subscribe to this YouTube channel and give these videos a like on YouTube and a share on your social media platform of choice. It really helps us out. That said, let's jump into the power rankings for the top tier of BUCS American football.
10.
Perhaps somewhat unluckily for the Renegades, one of their 2 losses against the Saints actually came after the bonus scandal broke, and the week 11 defeat to Durham still stands, meaning NTU remain lodged in the relegation spot. There's still the slimmest of hopes for the Renegades to remain in the Prem if they can win this weekend, and look for Sterling to hand the Saints their first on-field loss of the year. This will tie the 2 teams on points in the league, and if the Renegades can persuade BUCS to opt to place Durham below them in the berth owing to the fact that the Saints have conceded walkovers, you never know. NTU could have another season of Premiership balling ahead of them just yet. However, it's important to stipulate that the Durham sanctions were declared as involuntary walkovers, as the Saints are noted of having no idea that Boner wasn't eligible to play for them, and therefore it will be entirely up to BUCS whether they choose to enforce Regulation 9.2.2.
9.
The Cougars' time in the Prem has come to an end following their defeat to Bath last weekend, and there's nothing much really to play for in the upcoming matchup against Swansea, as each team are locked into their 3rd and 5th place berths respectively. Odds are both sides will focus on keeping their players healthy, while maybe experimenting with some of the darker recesses of the playbooks to round out the year in style.
8.
While it's the Saints that were punished, it may be that the Bees feel the hardest hit by the changes the BUCS sanctions have made to the playoff seedings, as suddenly the Killer Bees find themselves facing a long post-season trip north of the wall for a 2nd season in a row. Ouch.
7.
The Braves join NTU in having only one of their Durham losses granted back to them, however for now it's enough to give them the number 3 berth in the north and suddenly make this game a bit more relevant, as were they to lose and the Saints to win, the Braves could potentially once more tumble to the 4th spot, again pending a decision on the BUCS Regulation 9.2.2 enforcement as noted above. You can't say this final week hasn't suddenly become far more interesting.
6.
From a disappointing 4-4 season and the prospect of a very vintage potential matchup against the Birmingham Lions in the first round of the playoffs, suddenly Lugbug find themselves with a home berth and their highest Premiership position in a good number of years. Not a bad week for the long-time Uniball powerhouse.
5.
We were tempted to raise Swansea up the ranks off the back of their Hearts win, but the reality is it's likely too little too late for the Titans as they're locked into a 3rd place finish in the Prem South, and that'll mean taking their show on the road come playoffs, something they've struggled with at points this season. They showed on Sunday that they can go toe to toe with the best when all the cards fall into place, such as having a full strength roster for the first time in weeks and the Hurricanes having to make the long old trip across to Wales. Expectations are that the Titans will not go overly easy on the Cougars this weekend, as they'll be eager to hit the postseason with momentum, especially as they appear to have been the biggest winners of all from the shake-up in the Prem North. The Titans are no longer facing a gruelling trip up to Scotland for their quarterfinal fixtures, but rather a far more manageable trip and potentially opponent as they're locked in to head to Loughborough in the first week of the postseason instead.
4.
We're yet to really see what impact the loss of QB1 Sammy Lee Baker will have upon the Lions. They made it through the majority of the game against the Killer Bees without their number 1 skin slinger, but odds are they'll need to begin relying heavily on feature back Elliot Walters this weekend when they take on the Hertfordshire Hurricanes in a clash for the conference crown.
3.
Perhaps their first week atop the rankings went to their head as the Canes dropped down from the top spot following a shock loss against Swansea. Maybe the long trip west took its toll, or perhaps the healthy Titans are really a team to watch. Or maybe it's just the Hurricanes wanted to keep things interesting heading into the final weekend of their regular season. They take on Birmingham for the crown this weekend, but oddly both teams might actually be a little wary of taking the win on Sunday, as we're in the strange situation where whoever wins the Premiership South will actually be taking on what is very likely the best team in the Premiership North come the quarterfinals.
2.
Sterling take the number 2 spot, and yes, that does mean what you think it does. The Klansmen might be kings in the north once more, but they won't have wanted to do it this way. Still, they can give a bit more credence to their title this weekend with an on-field win over Durham.
1.
And yes, we've gone for it. We have a 2-win team sat atop our Premiership power rankings. Let's be clear though, the Saints are a 2-win team on paper alone, as while the whole team have been penalised due to the actions of one, their 2 wins since the former NCAA QB's disappearance from their roster have shown they're far more than a one-man show. They don't appear to have dropped a step since Bona's departure, and now the biggest question is likely how they as a team choose to handle their new situation. Fold in on themselves in disappointment, or step up and accept the new challenges placed ahead of them and look to hit the postseason hard with a point to prove. We're thinking it's going to be the latter, and while we believe this weekend's fixture against the newly crowned Stirling Clansmen is far from a gimme, we're still going to want to see proof on the gridiron rather than on paper that Durham aren't the team to beat in Uniball right now. And there you have it, nation. Do you agree? What do you think about the sanctions taken against Durham this week? Should they drop in the rankings due to their new lowly record, even though they've won 2 games without their controversial QB at the centre? Was the punishment fitting? Too lenient? Too harsh? Let us know in the comments down below. We're sneaking these rankings out right before we get cracking on some new and final Uniball rankings, but that doesn't mean you still can't like and subscribe and do your own little bit to help the community and this sport grow. Enjoy your game day, nation, and of course, as always, play hard, play safe. And if you want to do more to see the nation grow, go check out doublecoverage.com/apply in the next couple of days for details of how you can help grow the game you love.